Thanks for coming at this very early hour. Sorry for starting so late on the breakfast. You can see as a university, we ourselves aren't used to start that early. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the School of Management at California Lutheran University. My name is Gerhard Apfelthaler. I'm the Dean of the school. The school has been around for about 27 years now and has produced anywhere between 8,000 and 9,000 alums since inception. All of those alums are contributing significantly to the local, regional, and national economy and corporations and working for nonprofit organizations and government. But we recognize that the world out there is changing and startups are making a more significant contribution to the well-being of our economy today than they used to 27 years ago. So what we're doing is, at the School of Management, we're really trying to reinvent ourselves, and we're adding more to our portfolio in the entrepreneurship area. We are trying to become a hub for the entrepreneurial community. We're adding to our core faculty in the entrepreneurship area. We have recently started a student entrepreneurship club. We have initiatives in the planning, such as an accelerator program. We are seriously thinking about a facility for aspiring and existing entrepreneurs closer to the one-on-one, and we're planning startup weekends and many other activities in the entrepreneurial space. And we're also resurrecting an event series that we've had for a number of years, which was called the Entrepreneur Roundtable. And today is the first in the resurrected series of the Entrepreneur Roundtable, for whose inception I would like to thank three people who can't be here today, unfortunately. Christine Robert, who is one of our MBA alums, Mel Lowry, and Joe Huggins, who is our one of our adjunct faculty members in the entrepreneurship area. I'm particularly proud today to have somebody whose company is actually local in Thousand Oaks, but is truly international in what it does and truly at the forefront of its field. Ravi Sawhney, founder and CEO of RKS Design, is with us today, and I'm very grateful for that. Nelson Pizarro, my colleague, will introduce him in a short moment. He has a pretty fascinating book that is called Predictable Magic. And if I remember correctly, there's one quote in your book that says something along the lines of, it doesn't matter how you feel about a product, what matters is how a product makes you feel. And I would like to take this as the model for the Entrepreneur Roundtable series, particularly for today's events. I hope that this event makes you feel energized and makes you feel wanting to go out and do more for the entrepreneurial community and be a successful entrepreneur yourself. Thank you very much. And Nelson, if you would like to introduce Ravi. Thank you.
Good morning, entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. My name is Nelson Pizarro, and I am an assistant professor of entrepreneurship here at CLU, and I'm also a serial entrepreneur. We entrepreneurs are the engines of our economy. We can be proud of our contributions to society. Our speaker this morning is Ravi Sawhney, and his presentation is about psycho-aesthetics. Ravi is a Canadian-born designer of Indian descent, was raised in Los Angeles, where he attended CSU Northridge and Art Center College of Design. Today, he leads RKS in Southern California, a firm he started in 1980 after leaving Xerox, where he was the lead designer of the first generation of touchscreen interfaces. He remarkably alternates between roles of as CEO, entrepreneur, lecturer, author, and designer, and most importantly, as an advocate of design's ability to help others and make the world a better place. As the founder and CEO of RKS Design, Ravi Sawhney has spent more than 35 years at the forefront of product and technology innovation, and has grown his industrial design consultancy into a global leader in the fields of strategy, innovation, and design. Ravi is also a regular columnist blogger for Fast Company as well as a popular corporate and academic lecturer. While leading RKAs, Ravi invented the psychoaesthetic design methodology, which Harvard Business School adopted as a case study before it became the central focus of Predictable Magic, a book authored by Ravi and co-authored by Deepak Prahalad, published by Wharton School Publishing in August 2010. Ravi was inducted into the IDSA Academy of Fellows in 2009 and holds an honorary PhD from the Academy of Art University. Please let's welcome Ravi Sawhney.
Thanks, Nelson. Thanks, Gerhard. Good morning, everyone. I'll be your breakfast entertainment this morning. I'll try to do my best. I know it's early. I hope everybody's had some coffee. So I am going to basically show a presentation that we use for business schools, which are the executive programs that we use, and it's been fairly successful. So in overview, what we're going to go through is a point of view, some words of wisdom, the challenges that everyone faces in business, the types of services that we're involved with, type of engagements, the framework of how we actually get to where we're going, and then show you examples of results, and then back to a point of view that should pull it all together. So in 1985, I created this underpinning after leaving Xerox, and what it says is that it's not how you feel about the design or the experience, it's how it makes you feel about yourself. So this is the essence of what you will see reoccurring thematically through all of our work and how we teach. This is the underpinning of the book, Predictable Magic. I'll show a little bit more about the book. What is our objective? It's the effective use of design for business and society. There is no design for business without considering society, and there is no business for society without considering the business that's involved in creating those benefits. They're now very much interlinked. So some words of wisdom. We believe design is about solving problems. This brilliant man had his own idea about solving problems, that we can't use the same kind of thinking that we used when we created those problems. We also believe design is about creating pathways for self-actualization and empowerment. You'll see that is a driving force behind how we can motivate people to do things to improve their quality of life, or to grow commerce, or to change economies. How do you motivate people? And the keys are self-actualization and empowerment. We'll talk a bit about Maslow and Campbell. Mother Teresa said, don't wait for leaders, do it alone, person to person. And finally, this quote, design is the fundamental soul of a human-made creation that ends up expressing itself in the outer layers of a product or service. Normally I ask who said that, but if anybody's looking at the second screen, they probably can see this. This is by Steve Jobs. So until we researched it, we really didn't know what was his feeling about design. But why was design such a big part of Apple? Many argue that Apple is essentially a design company, that everything they're doing is really about design, and there's very little technological innovation, but it's really design innovation that they're bringing to the market. So we're challenged. This is the realities that we have to deal with. 80% of new products fail. I believe the number is actually 90%. I just have enough of a hard time saying 80%. But that's pretty scary. 70% of strategies don't get implemented. 30% are missing major parts. And half of small businesses don't hang on more than 5 years. So we're entrepreneurs. This is the reality of what we have to overcome. And what I'm going to show, hopefully, is a way to overcome those challenges. Here are the other challenges. We have diminished resources, populations increasing, city densities increasing. I forgot what the percentage is in China. It's something like 60% of China will live in major cities within the next 15 years. It is changing dramatically. Natural resources are depleted. The whole mindset of consumers today has changed. There was a time we talked about sustainability. Actually, yesterday I had 50 MBAs from Bocconi, from Italy. And they asked, what about sustainability? Ravi, you don't talk about sustainability. Sustainability is a given in everything we do today. The market will not accept anything that hasn't given considerations to sustainability, because we all know what's happening. We have to do something that's not only good for ourselves, but that's good for the planet. But these are the other challenges that people expect and are looking to raise their standard of living. They're looking for a means to raise their standard of living globally. And so we sit here in Southern California, everything's beautiful, everything's nice, but when we look outside, what you really see is that people are looking to go somewhere, to do something. And what Maslow said, what is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. And we'll talk a little bit more about Maslow. The other challenge is to increase the quality of life. That today, people focus on those tender moments, the sharing of food, the sharing of time together. They will compromise in other places so that they have those focal points of quality of life that resonate with them. Hopefully today will be one of those moments. And Campbell, how many people are familiar with Joseph Campbell? Oh, quite a few, great. As he said, I don't believe people are looking for the meaning of life as much as they are looking for the experience of being alive. This all comes together for design. So our role is, we feel, is helping to design the future of business and society. A little bit about RKS, so you know who we are. And quickly, we were founded in 1980. We look at sustainable business results to society and business. Maslow and Campbell are our foundations. And we set the stage for creation. So we provide research, strategy, and design, which are all interlinked in order to create success. You can't do one without the other, not in today's market. It was great. 20 years ago, we could just design. We didn't really have to think like we do today. It was an easier day. We're global. We look at creating compelling solutions. Ultimately, what's it all about? Is rich and compelling branded experiences. If we do everything we're going to say that we do, and we link it to a brand that's memorable and that's distinct, that can create tremendous company value. So it's not just about the value to consumers, but it's also about the value to the company itself. You know, I can name a multitude of companies that haven't done this, that have been successful financially, but can't create an exit because they don't have the associated brand, right? They're essentially just flipping things as they go through. These are some of the pro bono projects we do. We created an app for disaster relief that we put out to the world. We are involved in hydropacks, which are emergency water solutions, which I'll talk a bit about. And we actually created a case study program that's now going to be done together with Wharton, that's been in existence for 5 years, that defines the best practices of the profession. These are a little bit about kind of who we work with and where we work. Of course, we don't necessarily show all the startups that we work with because you don't necessarily recognize them. The services that are actually delivered to make things happen. So these are the categories of services that that make things happen, and this will feed into the framework. So you have to study the environments, the people, the trends. You have to go global. You have to live with people. You have to visit them in their homes. You have to do face-to-face interviews. We just had a team return from a 6-week expedition that went through North America, then through Europe, and then through Japan to meet with physicians, pharmacists, nurses, and patients. Talking to them one-on-one to gather those critical insights that you can only tell by speaking to these people and watching them, and seeing them in their environment. It's very interesting that if we ask ourselves a question, what we actually say, what we believe, and what we do are all 3 different things. I mean, that's the human nature. So you have to live with people. You have to strategize. So here's the list of all the things that it takes to strategize, just to create one design. A design of a new paper coffee cup would have to go through all this process if it's going to truly be successful and disruptive in the marketplace. Of course, you have to design. You have to prototype. Prototyping is essential, and prototyping traditionally was used to test a hypothesis of design or innovation. Today we use prototyping in early stages to evoke reactions from consumers so that we can dig deeper kind of into their hearts and their minds. So we'll use what are called low fidelity prototypes, we'll do co-creative models, we'll actually use them in a very different way than I was traditionally taught how we used a prototype, which was you designed, you engineered, and you built a prototype and you tested. Today we go out with rough prototypes and put a bunch of them in front of people and see what they react to. Not only what they say, but sometimes someone looks at something for the longest time and plays with it and then says, I don't like it. But you know that they studied it and you attracted and you engaged them, but there was something that they didn't connect with. You can't see that in a yes-no list checklist of quantitative research. What we do is more qualitative. It becomes that fuzzy front end. It's what people don't tell you that's important. Engineering is a critical part of what we do. And finally, branding. So we talked about the essence of brand. And I'll show some examples that pull that all together. So we started as a traditional design firm 33 years ago, which meant that someone came to us and said, I want a new coffee cup. And we drew sketches, and we showed them the different sketches, and the client selected one. And from there, we made a model, and we drew up some line drawings, and away it went to production. That was true probably of the whole industry. And what's happened to design is that design started getting pulled upstream. So the types of engagements changed, and design was pulled in and asked to lead some of these engagements. And so what you see are many of the top tier firms are working on huge strategies. They're working on cultural strategies for a large corporation to change the culture of a corporation. They're looking at strategies to enter businesses. So these are the type of ventures that we do. What you don't see is that we do coffee cups and we do cell phones. We actually will go in and develop a whole new business venture. We'll innovate a new business venture by studying the market, by interviewing, by traveling the world. For example, living in factories in China and Indonesia, we then, for Intel, can forecast future needs of technology that can be facilitated by new chips that will create new technologies to make those factories run faster, smoother, and assist in the training and all the other things they can do. In this way, we actually create the business venture, and our end deliverable is a business plan. It is not a design. We actually provide a complete business plan that goes for internal funding, and then it's pitched for venture funding. We do category reinvigoration. We will look at everything that's involved in the category and how to rise above commoditization, because that is the challenge for many of our clients, and many of the companies still today are being pulled down through commoditization. There was a time that Tandon Computers, not too far from here in Moore Park, I think they were the third largest PC manufacturer in the world. I don't know how many people had shares, and Jerry had shares in Tandon. I mean, they were an incredibly high-flying company. I think their stock split, Jerry, 10 times, 20 times? It was unbelievable. Yes. How did they crash? They were in the business of making lower-cost products, not better products, not more relevant products. And right at the tail end, we were engaged, we started showing them designs and design approaches and philosophies that could rise above the commoditization. Unfortunately, they were already at that point done. So they went from, and this is mid-80s, so they were doing $1 billion in revenue, and I think 3 years later they were out of business. I mean, phenomenal. They started the commoditization of PCs, and it ate them alive. And you see this happening with Hewlett-Packard, and you see this happening over and over again. And when people like Apple come out without any new technology and build an iPhone that is all off-the-shelf technology and capture the market, that tells everyone something about what's happening with people. That it's not about the technology, it's about what the technology is going to do for you or to you that's going to be important. Is it going to make my life easier, or am I going to sit there for hours and hours? And we talk about remote controls for TV. And we work for Sharp Television. We're doing next generation, 2, 3, 4 years out, televisions and the user interface. And we talk at length about the pain point of the remote control. In our house we have 4 remote controls, right? And we bought, a few years ago, I spent $350, bought a Logitech remote control. And the president of Sharp and I were laughing because he did the same thing, trying to make our life easier. 8 hours of programming, and you would say, okay, watch, I want to watch a DVD. And you would press the button, and it would flash and things would happen, and then it would ask you, did it work? Did it go to DVD? Yes. Is the TV on? Yes. Is it? It wasn't doing anything for us, and it's interesting that product people bought, and they were so annoyed and embarrassed. Very few people actually brought them back. It was embarrassing to people. You can get to that point where you can actually sell in but not sell through, and create these types of annoyances. Category reinvigoration, commoditization, complete portfolios and platforms. How do we take an existing technology, and it's very common for someone to come to us with a new technology, and when they leave, they have a portfolio of solutions that come out. So they have a good, better, best solution, and they have a roadmap going forward several years as to how they can roll out and stay advanced, and how they can create the most value out of their investment. So what you'll see in these types of solutions and offerings is late manufacturing changes. When we worked with Amana almost 16 years ago, they hired BCG. They paid BCG, I believe it was somewhere in the order of $12 million for their research and studies. We were handed these phone books of research. We asked the people from BCG, is there any one person who knows everything that's in here? No, there's no one who can tell you what's in here. And we asked the people at Mana, it's like, have you read this? And they're saying, no, we don't know what's in it, but BCG did it, and it should be, it should be great, but we don't know. So BCG doesn't know, and Amanda doesn't know, and they hand it to us, and they say, here, now use this to go reinvent one of America's oldest brands. So Amana was a very interesting brand. I mean, it is a town in Iowa that was German speaking up until the 1950s. And it was a factory and it's people. And when you go out to these factories and you realize that if I don't do my job well, I don't know what happens to all these people. You know, they had factories lined up to be closed. And we said, well, our job is to create so much demand for Amana that these factories stay engaged, they stay employed, and the company flourishes again. So what we found in that is that they had a few essential things that they identified. And one was that they had built a new factory for washing machines. They took the washing machines out, and now this is a substantial investment. And we're talking about a large factory, somewhere in the order of a $600 million investment. They took the washing machines out to test them. Nobody wanted their washing machines. So they tested against all the competitors, and in the testing, the design was rejected so badly that people refused to talk about the Amana washers and dryers. I mean, that's about as bad as you can get in testing, that you can't even get a test result because people say, I don't even want to look at it, I don't want to touch it, I don't know what that is, but I don't want it. So essentially what we did in that case was we looked at the platforms, we created a line of products out of that technology. One of the things we found from BCG is they did an analysis of why Amana's cost of goods were higher. At that time, they were the only ones making a stainless steel tub in their washing machine. But no one knew. They didn't tell anyone, there was no advertising, there was nothing on the outside of the product. We studied it, we had anthropologists working with us, we researched people, we lived in their houses, saw the lighting situations, saw how things were set up in basements, not California style, where washing machines upstairs and it's got a beautiful room and it's got its own bedroom almost. You get out to the Midwest, it's in a basement, it's low light. But there's something about laundry that was much more essential than just throwing clothes in a washing machine. Primarily, the women in a household do the laundry. They want to teach their children to do their own laundry so that they can sustain themselves and they don't have to do the work that the kids should be doing. So we added mentoring of colors. Only we're allowed to change the back panel and the knobs. We moved in research from being a no mark to number 2 in the mark, just through all of the design that we did. We made a knob that reached out and called out to touch it because it was shiny and it had a soft pad area. And people wanted to kind of reach and feel whether that was soft or not. And I used to watch, and my wife and I have seen it at retail, that we would stand there and watch. And someone would walk by looking at washing machines, and sure enough, they would reach out and have to feel that knob. But once you make physical contact with something, there's kind of this bonding that occurs on. Then people start looking, there's a little badge that says stainless steel tub. It's very interesting what happens with something as simple as a washing machine, right? It's a joint family decision. The woman in a household will say, this is the one I want, and the man has to say, yes, honey, I know that's reliable and that's got a great engine in it and it can do its job. It's like, okay, we'll get it. So we played that. We played to the audience. Their sales exploded. They went from selling 1s and 2s to retailers to selling truckloads. That led to them being acquired by Maytag, and Amana, they had a huge exit from the company who had bought Amana and rebirthed them. We actually ended up doing, I think, a dozen refrigerators, the full line of stoves and cooktops, and all of the washing machines for them. We do design language and UX guidebooks. I'll show examples of this type of work. Startup and incubation launch, which is critical to all the entrepreneurs. Global market creation. We have many companies who are coming internationally to the US, and we have many of our US clients who are reaching out globally. And then we have clients who are global who don't even care about the US market. I mean, they will absolutely say, it's too much work in the US, it's too small of a market. We're not interested in the US market. That's pretty scary stuff to hear. But they're coming here for design because they believe design on the west coast of the United States is the best in the world. So they're looking for something more. Full service programs, and actually creating consumer experience as a tangible deliverable. So somewhere in here, everyone in this room has to be able to relate to these types of categories. And in fact, what I'm going to show methodology-wise affects everything that we do. And I'll talk about the hero's journey. But this gives you kind of a global view. Quickly, these are kind of the areas that we work in. We also do dentistry. We also do all kinds of other programs. About RKS, we've won 153 major design awards. We're named on over 200 patents. I think we stopped counting at 200 because virtually every other week we have patents coming in that we're signing. So, the frameworks. This is where the key learnings are going to provide some insight as to how everyone in this room can either market themselves, market their business, develop a new innovation, bring something of value that you can generate a company with, or generate revenue with, or generate meaning with, or benefit to society. There are 7 essential steps in the book. The first in the Empower framework is to enable stakeholders. So stakeholders could be the executive team, it could be the management team, it could be the consumers. You identify who those key stakeholders are, and you really have to pull out from them very early on what is the essence that they've been thinking about, because no matter how open the program, and we have these incredibly open programs where it's just go study the market, but still there are stakeholders involved. People are funding this. You have to enable the stakeholders, and it goes all the way down to the person working on the factory floor. They may be a stakeholder and probably are a stakeholder too, because they could really reject a new technology that Intel provides. Right? If the user interface is poor, they can just say it doesn't work and everything falls apart. You have to map the future, and I'll show how we map the future based on personas and the mapping. You have to personify the consumers, which is something that's used in software traditionally and now is used in virtually everything that's done. You have to understand, how do you own the opportunities? So we talk about fishing where the fish are and where no one else is fishing. And, I think the president of Sharp said, at this point, I don't care where everybody else is fishing, just show me where the fish are. I just need to be there too. Even though they are the largest provider of large screen televisions. They're the #1 leader, but they won't be for long because now their factory is co-owned by Vizio and Samsung. So they had a lock on the technology. They provide the glass for all the large TVs. They overbuilt the factory, and they had to take others in, and the others wanted the access to the factories, so they gave up their competitive edge. Now it's down to the kind of work we do. You have to work the design process, which means iterate often and regular, as fast as you can. You have to engage emotionally. Ultimately, you have to reward the audience. So if you can do these 7 things, not necessarily in that order, in any order you like, if you can do those 7 things, you can create success time and time again. If you think about everything that we do, whether it's teaching, or whether it's building a business, or whether it's running a business, or whether it's motivating people to do something for a charity, this is the essence of what you need to do. Right? It is the key. Here's the challenges that we have as entrepreneurs. And here's the frameworks that we look at. We have 4 lenses that we need to look at simultaneously. Center lens is people. Speaking to them, speaking for them, knowing them inside and out, what their motivations are, what their aspirations are, what their needs are, what their need states are. And the other lenses are understanding the brand value, either creating or perpetuating a brand, creating the business sense, meaning that it's got to be profitable, It's got to generate enough revenue to sustain a consumer's interest and the channel, meaning it could be a distributor and on top of yourself, and a retailer and the consumer. That puts a huge amount of pressure on understanding what the value chain looks like in actually providing a product or service. And then the product or the service. So those are the four lenses that you look at simultaneously. And always, at the end of the day, people are going to decide what happens. They're going to decide whether it sells in or it sells through. They're going to give a yum or yuck reaction. They're going to evangelize your product in the positive, or they're going to destroy it with a quick blog and fuel all kinds of negativity. The process is very simple. Discover, create, and execute. It's very much like when Shaq was playing for the Lakers and he kept missing free throws, and he said, I know what to do now. Just put the ball through the hoop. I don't know if everyone saw that on the news, but I just fell over laughing. You know, they're interviewing me, he says, I know what I have to do now. So doing those are that's the high altitude. The underpinning drives what happens throughout that process. And we're going to go a little deeper into, you know, what the psychosthetics mean. But the yield is not revenue. The yield is a journey. What we want to do is design a journey for each and every person in the channel. And the journey is very simple. How do you attract? How do you engage? How do you lead to adoption? How do you fulfill and create a moment of truth which leads to evangelism, which creates and fuels that viral adoption? This is the derivative of Joseph Campbell's work. And I'll show Joseph Campbell's work in a minute. What happens is that we're on this journey every day of our lives. Right? Everyone got up in this morning and we went on a journey together, and we said, we have to, Cal Lutheran has to attract you, I have to engage you, I'm looking for you to adopt one idea, something from what I'm presenting today that you can then share with others, which gives you a moment of truth and makes you feel good about yourself as an evangelist and a hero. This journey is a derivative from Campbell's work. Right? So, what Campbell found was a universal truth that through all culture and throughout time, the story of the hero comes forward. Right? The traditional hero's journey is fairly complicated, but it's very much parallel to the journey that we're all on every day of our lives. Right? As a parent, you go through this when you're looking to bring something new to your child, or you're looking to even give them swimming lessons. As an entrepreneur, we're looking at the journey that we're on, but we're also looking at the journey of our investors and our team and their consumers. So once you start thinking about this as a motivational tool, it interjects and starts to play so that you can look over the horizon and start visualizing people evangelizing what you're proposing to the market or to yourself. You know, if I was a college graduate, I would use this to figure out my own pathway of how to get the best job that I was looking for. I would look at the person who's interviewing me and seeing them on their hero's journey and saying, how do I make a hero out of them so that they can go to the person above them and say, I found the perfect candidate. Seeing through other people's eyes allows you to do this if you think of them as being on a hero journey. And you get the fulfillment out of propelling that. The other person that we leveraged was Maslow. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs started fueling our thinking about how can we look at the world. You put that together, you have to add the ingredients of talent, which we work very hard to draw and cultivate and reward and retain high degrees of talent. But talent also comes from our clients, that there are tacit knowledge and tacit talents that we can pull out of them. You stand on the shoulder of those two greats, and then you use psychoaesthetics. So this is a psychoaesthetic map. Think of psychoaesthetics as a tool of design thinking. That the problem and the difficulty with design thinking is that after you go through design thinking exercises, what do you do with all that information? Only you know it. Only you went in and lived with someone in their household. How do you share that? How do you create a team contribution? So what we did was that we started mapping Maslow's hierarchy, and then we started playing with mapping interactivity and eventually self-actualization. So for everything that we look at, it falls into 4 quadrants. And each and every quadrant can be incredibly profitable. So there's a basic quadrant, artistic, enriched, and versatile. The basic quadrant, in the extreme of low interactivity and low self-actualization, is a paperclip. We think about it, it does its job, we reach over, we grab one, we barely look at it, it does its job, it's reliable, it's durable, there's nothing self-actualizing about it. It just does its job. It's incredibly well engineered and designed. Because I think probably everybody's played with the paperclip and tried to like get it to work. If I just shift it a little here, make a little bit different shape, it doesn't work. It's just one of those things that's so well perfected, we don't even think about how well it fits our fingers, right? That it fits our thumb and our forefinger, it does its job. You add high levels of interactivity and you get a tractor, a skip loader. Eyes, ears, hands, feet, you're completely interactive in it. But it's not self-actualizing. But if you go back to the very basic, low interactivity, high self-actualization would be the Mona Lisa. There's an experience with the Mona Lisa. You've got to get to Paris, wait in line to get a ticket, all right? Outside the Louvre, wait in line to get inside the Louvre. Get through the Louvre to wait in line, right? To stand in front of a row 10 feet away from what looks like a miniaturized version of the Mona Lisa, which is behind glass, and you don't even know if that's really the Mona Lisa, but it's self-actualizing. You know, it's kind of, you know, you feel good about yourself that, yes, I've seen it live, and, you know, even if it was a fake, don't tell me that. It's, you know, it's the real thing, I've seen it. You know, and the eyes followed me. You know, we don't know whether it really does. You know, if the painting does that, you probably wouldn't see it through glass. But there it is, and self-actualization. Now you add high levels of interactivity and self-actualization, and an extreme would be the sports car. Now what's interesting is the sports car, for some audiences, means that it's immersive. You see it, you smell the leather, you're interactive in it, and it changes the persona in the enriched quadrant. Now, if we talk about how specific it gets, that may apply to some of the guys in this room. If we look at people who live on the street in India, Africa, and South America who don't have a home, the basic phone that would be in North America, which would be a basic Nokia phone, would be full self-actualization for that person living on the street. All of a sudden now, they have full interactivity, they're connected with their family, they can do banking, they have an address, they have everything that they never had before that made them, you know, an anonymous person. Now they are someone. So it becomes very specific for the audiences. So I'm going to show the actual case here of Life Technologies. Anyone familiar with Life Technologies? Few nods. Life Technologies is a fairly global company. We started working with them 2.5 years ago, I believe. They had at that time a market cap of either $4 or $5 billion. They sold, I think, 6 weeks ago for $11.7 billion. So a lot of very happy investors. We went out in the field and we interviewed and personified and lived with and studied who these stakeholders are for that market. See in the upper right, the CEO, below him, the chief medical officer, chief scientists, and the technicians who work with the equipment. We had anticipated actually that this is laboratory equipment, this is life sciences, that everything would be in the versatile quadrant. Studying them and understanding them, we also studied the brands. This is our client right here, Life Technologies. Illumina is their largest competitor. I think Life Tech was at 3.6 billion and Illumina is 3.3 billion. So Illumina is somewhat in the enriched quadrant, and you can see, just looking at the branding, that how Life Technologies, their whole presence is in that versatile quadrant. And understanding what's inside, what people's motivations were, and how they saw themselves, they didn't see themselves as technicians or scientists. They had evolved to a place where they realized that DNA sequencing was going to extend the quality of life for everyone on the planet. Everyone was going to live longer and better lives because of DNA sequencing. They didn't see themselves as running DNA tests. They saw themselves that they were really going to change the world. They were going to help everyone on the planet. In their minds, they're living in the enriched quadrant, and they're looking for things that resonate with kind of where they're seeing themselves or where they aspire to being. And this is part of the forward thinking, is that people will actually adopt a new product or service to evolve into those opportunity zones. When we studied Apple, we were hired by Sprint before the iPhone came out to understand why they didn't get the Razr phone. So Sprint, huge company, Motorola came to them, offered them this slim Razr phone. They said, we don't want that skinny phone. And they just made a gut reaction. And they missed a huge market. So they hired us to go and study the market and to do the psychosthetics. And actually what we came back with was a map something like this. And we said, there's a void in the market. Look at people's lifestyles. Look at what they're doing with their lives. They have multiple devices. What they're really looking for is a solution that's a lifestyle product that will allow them to stay connected with their friends and do a multitude of things. And this is 2 years before the iPhone came out, and we showed them drawings. We said, here, this is what you have to anticipate doing. Here's a phone. It has a power switch, a microphone, a speaker, and a touch screen. And what that will do, and we showed them 20 different apps that you could download. From restaurant finding to staying connected with your friends, to blinking messages, via replacing a pager, and we went through everything. Of course, Apple was already on the same wavelength, and they executed. Sprint didn't have any technologists on board, so when they went to Samsung and others, can you do this? They thought it was too far-fetched. What you find is people are motivated to do things to evolve. And I always remind people that actually, if you look at what we do, that we buy a new piece of clothing to make us feel good about ourselves and to evolve, because we want to become something more. It's very much, I think, the human condition that we never stay satisfied that long with what we have. We always look to evolve and become something more. So first thing we did was rebrand. I'm going to show a close-up of this. We rebranded their product badging to put that in the enriched zone. It's not more complicated. It's actually a very cheap badge to produce, but it carries along a gestalt and an ethic and an approach that outpositions Illumina. When we looked at the product landscape as part of the global design language, Life Technologies is right where the brand was. It's a workhorse. It's a tool. Right? It's got a screen on it. It looks like it's from the 1980s, like it's been around forever. And here's Illumina, which we placed in the artistic zone. It's beautiful. It's really well designed. I know the design team that designed it, and they won design awards for it. But you couldn't look at it as scientists and say that's the most state-of-the-art, robust, most reliable, and highest speed technology that's available to me. It doesn't represent me as a person. It's just something beautiful to look at. So we took that exact same technology, and as part of the global design language, we put it right into that. That is exactly the same technology. And the close-up of it is right here. So just by changing the design language, we're able to unify the company. I'll show a little bit more quickly about the design language. But it changed the whole connection of that technology. And it's interesting, and I'll show the $1,000 DNA sequencer. Actually, when LifeTech came out with it, the design language and the visuals, everything about it resonated with the brand. And Illumina came out with theirs almost the same time and got no attention. And Life Technologies got all the attention. So, everyone an expert in psychosthetics? So, most importantly, that for all the theory that any designer, anybody can put up here, can they prove it? Can they actually put it in and execute it? Right? And that's where I'm going to quickly go through the diverse amount of application that we're going to, that we've used for this methodology. And this is only a part of it. So there's virtually not a product category that we haven't touched. Unilever came to us, gave us a challenge and said, create a sustainable series of solutions, innovate for us. We want 1 billion people to adopt this over a period of 5 years. Here, go out in the world and see what you can find. We live with villagers in India looking at laundry. We live with people in the Netherlands, in the UK. Probably, I think it was running about 9 months. We did innovative work sessions. Part of the beauty of the psychoaesthetics is that everyone comes together. So we brought rooms that are about half this size in London. We had 3 of them. We had scientists, we had engineers, we had product managers, we had marketeers, we had accountants. We had all a variety in every room. And we did innovation workshops using all the psychoaesthetics. The personas were posters on the wall, the help me statements, all of this type of, that poster you see there for water, that was a 8-foot tall poster when you walked in the door. And what we created were a series of solutions to help Unilever. And the lower right one is one of the more interesting ones, is that we came up with additives into detergent. So instead of just taking dirt out, that you could actually add something in that stays in the cloth, that it gives vitamins. In a lot of situations, people aren't getting the vitamins they need. But we looked at everything and came back with 3 business proposals, down from 100 to 20 to 10 to 3, and 3 got funded. This is the Hydro Pack. It's a cellulose bag that we've been working with this company to get the adoption of the cellulose bag. In a disaster relief situation, you could drop 1 helicopter load of this, would be equivalent of 15 helicopter loads of bottled water. This is a cellulose bag that has electrolytes, sugar, vitamins, and flavor. Gives about 180 calories and 500 mils of water. When you drop it into the water, through osmosis, it inflates through the cellulose and fills the bag. When it does that, it strips away all the bacteria and viruses. Gives you pure drinking water. I see our chemist nodding. Yes. I've seen it demonstrated where they will drop these bags into raw sewage and they pull the bag out and they drink the water. That it purifies the water that well. So our job is to look and create the adoption of how people can adopt this technology, because still in disaster relief they're just dropping water. But what happens is you can't drop water from a helicopter. If you can't land the helicopter, that means people aren't going to have any water. And when they don't have water, they've seen, we had the head of the head medical officer for the Air Force was working with us on this. And he lives in Africa. He has watched more than 1,000 people die a day from the lack of clean water. He's seen them drink water out of ponds that had dead bodies floating in them. That they're that desperate to get water because we only can live about 3 days without water. We can live about 4 weeks without food, but only about 3 days without water. This is a startup, WikiPad. WikiPad is a local company. We developed a tablet that plugs into a gaming controller, and now you have a gaming experience. We realized that there's a duality that we could address, that a lot of people like the game, but they still have to do the work. So it's a complete state-of-the-art tablet. We did the branding, the packaging, the mission and vision statements, the tagline. We did the website, the on-screen experience. We did everything for WikiPad. And they launched just now, it's 2 weeks ago. So they're for sale on Best Buy and Walmart, and of course they're sold out. And they haven't even started to fulfill the orders that are coming in from Europe and Canada and the Middle East and everywhere else in the world. So watch for WikiPad. It's going to be a very fast-moving company. I mean, sales are going to be astronomical because they have a unique gaming solution. And what happens is in China, it's against the law to have a restriction where if I sell you a product, you can only buy my games. So this is an Android platform, which means you can buy any game from anyone. You can download it. So Microsoft is locked out, and Nintendo is locked out based on their platforms. And Sony's locked out. So that's one of the reasons Sony is going to streaming games. But it's a whole change of what console gaming will become. It's very interesting to hold. This is a 10-inch version. To market with a 7-inch version. When you hold it, the game controller goes away. You don't see anything happening around you. You're just completely in the game. It's completely immersive. It's almost like a virtual reality device. You know, it's just psychologically you're blinded from seeing everything. Quickly now I'll go through some of the other types of things. We've developed consumer electronics focused on the female market, which is extremely underserved in consumer electronics. We've done kiosks to help sell products and duplicate and create that Apple effect for malls. We apply the approach to user interfaces such as travel experiences. We develop refrigerator systems for retailers globally for the bricks for Pepsi. We did all of the color studies and quite a bit of work for LG when they went from $300 million to several $1 billion in sales as applying these strategies. That was post-Amana. Here's an example of medical devices. This is a DNA serum delivery system. So the key with DNA serum is that the future of medicine is in DNA serums. The key is that your cell doesn't really want to let something into your DNA. So they use electroporation, which is an electronic signal that flashes across in a specific pattern that opens the gates, and the uptake goes 100-fold on the DNA serum getting into the cell. In order to do that, there are 5 needles in that pad that you push into your muscle. So it's not like it's just a prick in the skin. It's five needles that go in that are electrodes. So we went through the whole process. Here's some of the engineering. So what happens is, right in here, the 5 needles are there. So I put a pad to your arm with this nice friendly device, and just one big push, and you feel 1 needle prick. You don't realize it's 5 needles. And then we developed a robotic system by which a syringe is inserted, injected, and removed, and then it goes through the whole system. Keep walking. and so we addressed that in a complete solution. If you actually go to our website, there's a 3-minute video. I think it's had over 50,000 views. And I met someone from one of the major airline carriers last week, actually at the conference that Nelson went to, and she told me, she was talking about what they were doing. And I said, oh, we did a whole proposal about airline travel. She goes, oh yeah. She says, we're using that word. That's a big part of what we're doing, is that we studied your proposal, and now we're looking at what parts we're executing. Here's a $1,000 DNA sequencer. And on the bottom, you see some of the global design language. That's about a 150-page book that defines every touch point involved for life technologies. Here's some examples of how the global design language applies to different form factors. We do consumer packaged goods. For example, these are candles. Candles with bug repellent. We talked about the Hope app, which came out of the need to stay connected. When the tsunami hit Japan, families couldn't get on the phone for days and days. We realized that you could send an SMS message to your social network, and people could look up and see whether you're okay or not. And then we just took it further and further. Said, here's how you be prepared. Here's how you could raise funding. Here's how you could do everything out. We put it out to the Red Cross first, then put it out to the world. Microsoft has a solution based on this. Red Cross created their solution based on this. Oops, that's the slide. I keep deleting and it doesn't keep deleting. Local company Soch, we do consumer electronics headsets. For Discus Dental, also was a startup 20 years ago. We've done all of these products. That company just sold for, I think, a couple $100 million. Stereos, medical ventilators, baby bottles, packaging, consumer packaged goods. MiniMed, another very big success. We did the turnaround on MiniMed. Found the key pain point that people did not want that device in the lower right, that it was overtly medical, and they wouldn't adopt it. Once we turned it into that product, the sales went from $45 million to $270 million. Anyone know what they were required for? Jared, do you know? 3.7 billion on $270 million in sales. Vacuum cleaners for LG. Complete design strategy that took LG to over $2 billion. Laboratory devices. Part of the Intel innovation work. Part of our own innovations, the micro refrigerator that opens like a file cabinet. Bluetooth headsets. Line 6, another local startup that's done very well. Those who know Line 6, based in Calabasas. We do quite a few products for them. Smartphones for the blind. Laundry Pod, it's a hand-powered washing machine. Core Water is an Orange County-based startup that we've been with for 5-6 years. Now is a global brand. Line Sights for Warner Brothers. Xylus, all of the kitchen devices you see from Xylus were all designed by us. Salad spinners. Home theater systems. And the last example is our own line we incubated of electric guitars. So you see Daniel Ash of Bauhaus and Ron Wood of the Rolling Stones playing them, and Dave Mason. And then finally, someone who brings it full circle for all of us is Maya Angelou, who said very clearly, I've learned people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So with that, I probably run over time-wise, but still, we hope we made you feel empowered. So that's my goal today. I hope I accomplished that. If anybody needs to reach me, there's my email and there's our Twitter at RKS. Thank you.